أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Welcome everyone to our third session of Surah 64, Surat at-Taghabun. We're continuing to journey in the Surah. We have read the first couple of verses, first 8 verses, and we'll continue on discussing today. Is there anybody who wants to share anything from these verses? We had this small assignment. I don't know if you were able to do it, but we were invited to reflect on the beautiful names of God that are mentioned in these verses so far. As you know, in the Quran, oftentimes the verses end by mentioning an attribute of God, like all-seeing, all-knowing, all-powerful, most compassionate, and so on. And it gives, if we pay attention to it, it gives a certain flow to the text and interconnection to the verses that may otherwise look disconnected, but actually they are intensely connected. Oftentimes people, if I may say this, oftentimes people say that the Quran is not well organized, not divided into a specific outline, neither chronologically, nor there is not a storyline, or the themes are not divided up according to a particular sequence. So for many people, it looks, the text is very unpredictable and unusual as a book, but at the same time, it may look like that from one perspective. And another perspective is to look at it as a dynamic and fluid text, and sometimes the intensity of connections can look like the opposite. Meaning, if you have a particular linear organization, things seem like they're connected to each other, 1, 2, 3, 4, but then there isn't a direct connection between 1 and 10. You have to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get the 10. In the Quran, we don't see that linear sequence, but we see this web of connections across verses, that this verse in this part of the Quran is connected intimately with another verse in another part of the Quran. And so similarly with the verses that follow each other, initially there may seem to be jumps, but if you look closer, ideas are actually dynamically connected. They're so intensely connected that they look the opposite. I don't know, Sister Yamina, I want to give a metaphor too, but I don't want to diverge from the topic. There's a metaphor that Ustad Nursi gives for clarifying how things are connected in the Quran, and that's the metaphor of the stars in the sky. That if you look up the sky, the stars look like scattered without a particular order, but actually they're all connected, and there is an order, because if there was no order, everything would collapse. So there is an order, but then if the stars were neatly organized, and you wouldn't be able to connect them. There will have to be one center and one periphery. Whereas if they are organized in a more rich fashion, then each star can be a center for the rest of the stars. The reason I'm sharing this is because the assignment to look at the beautiful names of God calls us to look more carefully what the order in the text, that there is an intense order, but not in a linear sense. So when you first read it, it just flows and it's dynamic. But then when you pay attention to, like, let me look at the endings of the verses and the beautiful names of God mentioned in these verses. And then a pattern emerges, and then you realize, well, these are actually all interconnected. So that's my sharing for now. Does anybody else have any sharing about the beautiful names of God in this text? Like one thing that attracted my attention was how there is emphasis on God's knowledge in these beautiful names that have been used. Power and knowledge. So God sees everything you do at the end of verse 2. And then at the end of verse 4, he knows what's in your hearts. And then later on in verse 8, it comes back to knowledge of God. God is fully aware of all that you do. So and then in the other verses, there's a reference to emphasis on God's power. So God's power and knowledge is a pattern repeated in these first 8 verses. That's one thing that attracts my attention, which I hadn't noticed before as we were reading. So with that, I'll turn to you if you have any comments. If not, we'll turn to Sister Yamina. Thank you.
Thank you, Isra, for sharing. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. If we go from the beginning, there is in the first area, it ends with وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. He is powerful over all things. But before that, there is also a description of God, not with one word, but it says, لَهُ الْمُلْكُ. If everything belongs to him, he is the Malik. وَلَهُ الْحَمْدُ. And all hamd, all praise is due to him. It means he is Hamid. So we start by, he is the owner of everything, and therefore all praise is due to him. And he is powerful. He has power over all things. He has the power to will anything. And in the next area, which is the second area of the Surat at-Taghabun, it ends with وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. And God sees all that you do. And as Isra mentioned, there is this emphasis on God knowing everything, God knowing all what we do, God knowing everything that's in our hearts. And it brings this awareness, if we truly stay with each verse. Remember that knowing, the knowledge that we are getting here is only the first step, because we're only going to the guidance is going to be uncovered to us, or that the wisdom from this knowledge is going to unfold to us only when we experience it, only when we actually follow it, when we act upon it, when we live with it. And that acting is not necessarily an outer action. It starts with the intention and the choice to follow the guidance, as we saw in Surat Yusuf salam. In the beginning, we were wondering why he was described as a muhsin again and again, when we could not see in an outward action, but he was taking an inner action. And sometimes the lack of panic, the lack of fear, or the lack of something can also be an action. So I'm not using action in the sense that I necessarily go and do something that you can see. So here it's like a God knowing everything. It's almost like, when we live in ghafla, when we live in that unawareness of where we're going, where everything is going, where everything is coming from and flowing. That awareness of the reality of this life being transient and flowing and passing, and that we are traveling with that flow ourselves. We are part of the flow. When we are not present to that reality, to that aspect of life that is what matters the most, because it is it reveals, it mirrors, reflects the reality of this world, and therefore the fact that it's coming from somewhere and going somewhere else. So it acts as an indicator, as an ayah, as a sign, telling us to look for where we're coming from and where we're going and what are we doing here. So when we forget that, it seems like we think it's like I'm doing things, and as if no one knows, as if like I can cheat. Of course, I don't say to myself I'm cheating, but as if I'm cheating. The cheating comes because it's the title of the Sura, the Taghabun. Taghabun is that mutual deceiving and cheating, especially in a transaction like buying something. You buy something, but you don't give it its real value, it's what it's worth. That's a kind of ghabana. And so it feels like we're living like there is no, we're not aware that it's not only after we die that there will be a day of judgment, but right now, whatever we do is like there is imagine a video taking everything in your life. Would we act in the same way? If it makes no difference, then you're fine. But if I would do things differently, then I have to stop and revisit my life and my choices and my decisions in life. But it's almost like this repetition of Allah knows everything. He knows what's in your heart. He has knowledge of everything. It's khabir, like he's subtle, like it's not like I can hide my thoughts or anything. It's like it's not a normal camera video taking only what you see. It's inner, outer, everything. And can you imagine, like, on that day, everything will be out there. And deep down, we can know that now. That's why the whole surah is reminding us again and again. So in the second ayah, it says, Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. God sees all that you do. In ayah 3, it says, Wa ilayhi al-masir. Everything, the destination, the journeys, the end of the journey of everything, your life and everything else is with Him. And that's important as well. And then in the fourth ayah, it says, Wallahu alimun bidati sudur. Before that, it says, وَيَعْلَمُ مَا تُسِرُّونَ وَمَا تُعْلِنُونَ. He knows everything, whether what you keep secret as well as what you bring into the open. Why? Because He knows what's in the hearts. And in ayah 6, we're told, Wallahu ghaniyyun hamid. God is self-sufficient. He doesn't need anything. And He's Hamid. He's He's the one who is ever praised. Whether you praise him consciously or not, all praise goes back to him. So when I don't praise him consciously, it's my loss, not his. And in Ayah 7, again, it's related to the first one when it says everything. He's powerful over everything. He can will anything. Because here it says that you will be resurrected, we will be resurrected, and we will be surely made to understand what we did in our life. And that's very easy, because that's very easy for God. So everything is very easy for him because he knows everything and he's powerful over everything. And in Ayah 8 again, it says, Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. And God is fully aware of what you do. And again, it's this emphasis on not only he knows everything, but he knows what you do. Because what we do is the outer reflection of what's in our hearts. I mean, you can't be very happy as someone, and then when you see them, suddenly you explode, you utter very ugly words, and vice versa. If someone's heart is full of anger at someone, for instance, when you see the person, you can't be cool and nice and polite for a long time. You're going to explode at some time. So why what we do is important? Because it is the mirror of the heart, of what's inside. Subhanallah, like it's the names of God that are repeated and chosen in this surah, they really help us realize what's going on, realize how serious this is, realize how the fact that everything will end up, everything is like pouring into that world of the hereafter, and that will be a day that we will have to, how do you say, give, oh sorry.
Give account?
Yeah, but there is another word that anyway. Like we're accountable, that's accountability, that sense, which we have inside, but we tend to forget that we are accountable for what we did with this life, which is a trust. It's given to us, it's a gift, it's not ours, but we take it and do whatever we want with it, and we use it in a very, very foolish way. We're not aware of how precious this life is. How, when I say life, it means also all the abilities and the potential that is given to each human being. First, to be a human being is a very special potential, because human being, he has the potential to be a abd, and abd means, as we've seen when we went through the concept of ubudiyah, is that mirror to rububiyyah. So human being has this extraordinary potential to be a mirror to the divine names. I mean, it just like, I can't even, it just fills the heart with awe. You just feel like prostrating, like, and especially when you think of how we spend our life, it's really, really, really sad. And that's why this here it's the ayat here is helping us by stressing those names of God, that He knows, He's seeing you right now, He knows everything. And don't try to pretend, because He knows what's in and what's out. It's not like you're not trying to deceive your neighbor or someone. There's no way. It's a call for authenticity, a call for integrity. So we stopped at the seventh ayah, which was, they who are bent on denying the truth, those who are, they falsely claim that they will never be raised from the dead. And we said, okay, there are those who claim that they won't be raised at all, and those, like most of us who are reading the Quran, who actually, we think we believe it, we don't deny it at least. However, in our life, often we act as if we are denying it. We don't confirm it we don't live as though we are going to be raised from the dead. And so what do they say? These people who they imagine, they fancy that they will never be raised from the dead, they say, by my sustainer. So it's very, tell them, like, say, primarily to the Prophet ﷺ, but to us as well, by my sustainer, I can say this to myself, most surely you will be raised. So each one of us, if I can convince myself, tell this to myself and believe it, then I can say it to the people around me. And I don't always have to say it with words, because my life itself will be an active testimony of this reality. Most surely you'll be raised from the dead. And then most surely you will be made to understand what you did. And again, it is about ma'amiltum, what you did. It's about action, how you lived your life. It's very important. For this is easy for God. This is easy. He will make you understand what you did. And if it tells you, whenever something like this is said to us, as we keep repeating, it means that it is possible for me to understand this here and now. Otherwise, I will never be able to, first, confirm the truth of this message. Second, what's the point? If I cannot confirm it and understand it now, I'll have to wait and see. And so now I will never have that certainty, especially when it comes to akhirah. It is not only about believing, maybe, it may not be. It's about being certain, because it's going to change, transform everything in my life. Everything, the good and the bad, everything is going to change, because the point of reference is going to change. The point of reference cannot be this passing, transient, flowing life, but something permanent, which is the next world. But that next world, everything here now is pointing to it. So that next world is not something that comes after I die. I am in a state of dying. I'm in a state of leaving this world, as we said before. And as we said, we were all babies and toddlers and youth. And so we are in that state of journeying through the world, through this life. And we are, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We belong to God, and therefore we are in the state of returning to Him. And we are in that state of return. So right now, it is possible for us to have a glimpse, to experience that other realm, that everything here is mirroring, is pointing to and mirroring. It's almost like there is, in the beginning, it feels like it's pointing to it, and afterwards it becomes like we start looking into the mirrors of the creation here, of beings and events here in this world, and they start becoming like windows onto that realm of the divine names. We start seeing the reflection of the divine names in everything. It's a journey, there are stages, but it is possible to confirm and understand that this is the reality right now. And so we'll understand that, yes, we will be made to understand. It's also nice that we will be made to understand. We are always made to understand. We cannot of ourselves understand. Sometimes we try very hard to understand something and we don't get it. And when it comes, it just comes. It's a gift. It's not a power that we own. Believe then, so now we start with, that's where we stopped at Ayah 8. Believe then in God and in His Messenger and in the light which we have revealed. And God is fully aware of all that you do. فآمنوا بالله ورسوله والنور الذي أنزلنا والله بما تعملون خبير. I'll just go through all the verses that inshallah we'll be able to go through them today, and then we'll go through them one by one. Think of the time when He shall gather you all together unto the day of the gathering, that day of loss and gain, that day of disillusion. For as for him who shall have believed in God and done what is just and right, he will, on that day, he, meaning God, will efface his bad deeds and will admit him into gardens through which running waters flow, therein to abide beyond the count of time. That will be a triumph supreme, like the most supreme success. يوم يجمعكم ليوم الجمع ذلك يوم التغابن ومن يؤمن بالله ويعمل صالحا يكفر عنه سيئاته ويدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا ذلك الفوز العظيم. But as for those who deny and give the lie to our signs, to our ayat, they are destined for the fire, therein to abide, and how vile journeys end. والذين كفروا وكذبوا بآياتنا أولئك أصحاب النار خالدين فيها وبئس المصير. No calamity can ever befall humans unless it be by God's leave. Hence, whoever believes in God guides his own heart towards this truth, and God has full knowledge of everything. ما أصاب من مصيبة إلا بإذن الله ومن يؤمن بالله يهدي قلبه والله بكل شيء عليم. Pay heed then unto God and pay heed unto the messenger. And if you turn away, know that our messenger's only duty is a clear delivery of this message. وأطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول فإن توليتم فإنما على رسولنا البلاغ المبين. And what's the message? God, there is no deity except Him. In God, then let the believers place their trust. Allahu la ilaha illa hu wa ala Allahi falyatawakkal al-mu'minun. So in Ayah 8, we told, believe then in God and His messenger, and in the light which we have revealed. Interestingly, it doesn't say in His light, His messenger, and His light. Like when it says rusulihi wa kutubihi, but it's not nurihi, but one nuri, the light which we have revealed. Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir, and God is fully aware of all that you do. And note also how specific this ayah is. It doesn't say believe in God only. No, believe in God and in His messenger, and believe in the light He has revealed.
Sister Yamina, can I say something here?
Sure.
As you were going over the first 8 verses and emphasizing that we are accountable and we are heading towards an eternal realm, And most of the time, unfortunately, we are just fooling ourselves. Part of me was feeling, okay, this is so. Yes?
Squandering, wasting.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I felt sad, and the part of me was like, this is so sad. Yes, I mean, we're going to another world, and but a part of me was saying, this is kind of spoiling all the fun, if you see what I mean. Like, even think about death, everything is passing, but then we're so much indulging, and there's fun and here, and so I said, okay, let me look at the text again, because the text is not saying this to uh, spoil the fun. It's actually inviting us to the real fun, to the real peace and enjoyment. And then, as soon as we started reading verse 8 again, the light, that reference to light, attracted my attention, because without that, one may think, okay, this is scary stuff. You're gonna be held accountable. You're going to somewhere, and God is seeing everything. There's no way to hide. To a part of us, to that superficial part of us, it looks dark and scary. But actually, it's the opposite, because it's only through seeing this life in the context of an eternal life, and in realizing that we are candidates for eternity. We are going into eternity only within that context of belief that there is light in our world, that this isn't actually spoiling any fun. It's actually bringing real enjoyment and pleasure to our lives. Yes, accountability with it as well. So there is that accountability, but it isn't something that to make us sad or crush us. It's really giving us the possibility to look at this life, because it's painful anyway. I mean, it's passing. The only thing we think is fun is just we're distracting ourselves. Do this, do that, watch this, da, da, da. So you distract yourself. But if deep down it's so painful that this is a life we are investing in, and whatever we do, we're just going into doom. At the end, everybody dies and it's nothing. People can, soothe themselves about, oh, so and so died and how sad he is, and let's put up his pictures and let's talk about him. Let's make him more present. But this man is gone, and that reality is so actually crushing without this messenger calling us to God, without this messenger talking to us about an eternal life, and a life that we are accountable. We will be held accountable for everything. So I just thought, like, I was so surprised to hear that light in verse 8, because that really enabled me to reaffirm that this isn't about scaring you. This isn't about spoiling the fun. This is actually, when you say no to this, you are actually opening yourself to darkness. And this is about light. So believing in God means believing in light.
And actually, the spoiling the fun is our own projection of our own misperception. Because deep down, even when we think we're having fun, we're actually only trying to soothe ourselves, because we're really scared of what we think is the reality, which is only a half truth, that everything is passing and transient, which is true, but we don't know the other side, which is, yes, it's passing, but that's an indication that it's coming from somewhere and going somewhere. And so we only see what's leaving, and we don't pay attention to what's coming, and to that endless flow. So we don't see that there is something more to this. So because we don't see that there is something more, and we are so scared that we don't want to listen, and so we keep ourselves busy. We try to soothe ourselves with that, what we call fun, which is really self-deception. Because deep down, it's never really fun, in the sense of it's not joyful, it's not peaceful, it doesn't satisfy the heart and the human soul, because you can't be satisfied when it's like waiting for your turn for eternal annihilation, but in meanwhile saying I'm having fun. And so when we hear the first time, when we hear the message, it seems like it's spoiling the fun, but actually it's not. It's actually bringing the real solution, showing the door to the light, the door to meaning, to purpose, to that's why it said before, like the end is not annihilation, is not somewhere scary, it's going back to him. So it's actually all very good news. And it's not only very good news, but again and again coming back and showing us the way. So how do you say, okay, it's very nice, but I'm stuck here. Just a second, just believe in God and follow his messenger, believe in the light, you will be fine. So at each turn, we are again and again given the formula, the shown the door. It's like the signs are at every corner. It's like, because the road is very, it's not in our perception. It seems like it's not a straight. I don't see in the sense that I don't see the end. It's like meandering. And so there are all these signs like, slow down. Don't worry, you're on the right path. Just take this. It's then you start reading it. It's something very, very comforting. Yes, it may spoil that fun, but that was not real fun anyway. And now you have this real, deeper. Even fun is not a good term for it, because it's like a deep joy, a deep peace, a deep grounding, a deep connectedness, feeling, bringing up again. It's like, from another aspect, it's like a delinquent who has very low self-esteem, and so is fearful, and therefore is acting up and acting angry. And someone is teaching him that's how valuable you are. Like, what are you doing? Why are you wasting your life like this? Your life's value is like, it's eternal. Eternal joy, eternal peace, eternal being with Rabbul Alameen. What are you doing? So there is that part as well. So it's belief in God and his messenger and the light he has revealed. And so we understand that belief in God is only complete to the extent we believe in his messenger, meaning follow the message, follow the messenger and follow his message, live by the message as he lived, as he was the walking Quran. We need to be, as much as we can, at least that should be our intention, inshallah, to follow that path. And we follow the message, we follow his message, our Rabb's message, and we follow his messenger when we are aware of our need for it. If I think I know, I have a plan for my life, I know what to do, I know what I need a career, I need this much money, I need a title, I need that people see me this way or that way, how to look and all that, then sorry, you won't feel the need for guidance. Even if I do the prayers and everything, but I'm not really, I'm just following without truly being conscious of the light in that guidance. I'm not truly following the messenger. I'm just copying him. But the messenger was not just doing the action. The action was coming from an inner belief. And that inner belief, if it's missing, I will be doing my prayer and like, oh, it's done. Now I can go and do whatever I want with my life. What do you mean? Like, when you were praying, it was not part of your life? supposed to be like the best part of your life, because it's what makes the rest of your life more meaningful and more purposeful. And so you see that we can very easily miss the key connection if we are not in touch with our needs. So when we are in touch with our need, when we truly feel like I came here, was brought here, I'm going somewhere, but where am I going? How? Like, I need to figure it out, and I need some help. And I feel that darkness, that neediness, then I feel the need for the guidance for the light. And the light has been correctly understood as referring to the Quran. I'd like to add that the fact that the term an-nur, the light, is used instead of the Quran. In some cases it says, many cases as the book, the Quran. Why not that? It means the fact that this word is used in itself is again an area, a sign, and it's indicating a specific aspect, a function of the revealed guidance, which is light. And what does light do? It stimulates sight. It makes things visible to us. And so we see and benefit from this light, from that aspect of the Quran. When do we see that aspect of the Quran? When does the Quran become light for me in my life? When I follow its guidance. I mean, if I have water sitting on the table and I'm very thirsty, that water is not something that quenches my thirst unless I go and pick it up and drink it. And so it is with the Quran, with the guidance found in the Quran. When it tells, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَىٰ طَعَامِهِ, let human beings look at his food, how we created it, how it's made like this for it. Then if I just read it and close my book, I am not following the guidance of the Quran. Following the guidance of the Quran is actually going out, actually reflecting, تَفَكُّرُ سَاعَةٍ خَيْرٌ مِنْ عِبَادَةِ سَنَةٍ, actually reflecting on my food, how it is a gift, how it is related for that plate to exist there. The whole universe has to exist first. So it is making tasbih. It's telling me that my maker is the maker of everything. He has power over everything. It starts speaking to me and I start listening to its tasbih. Remember, ayah 1 here starts with tasbih. That everything makes tasbih. Then everything starts, I connect with everything as an ayah around me. And it starts, when they are ayat, there are signs everywhere. So it's like light everywhere. It's like I don't get lost because I know the meaning, the purpose of everything, or at least it doesn't mean that I know in advance. When I need it, it's like when you're traveling, when you're riding you may not see the whole road when you are traveling, for instance, driving a car, but you see as much as the road is, there are lights on the road, and your car also has lights. And so you see as much as you need that time. And so is in our life, we are given that light, but it's only light if I open my eyes, open my heart and follow it. Otherwise it's there, so you say, like, where is the light? So it's not a static Quran sitting there. It's not the Mus'haf. It's the Quran speaks to me when I interact with it, when I feel the need for it. It's like I am thirsty and I drink water and it quenches my thirst. I am thirsty and needy and I listen to the Quran and follow its guidance, and it enlightens my world. And it says, Wallahu bima ta'maluna khabir. And so I follow. And so in one sense, it could be understood as Isra has mentioned, like, oh, he knows everything. Like, oh my God, he knows everything. But there is the other side. Alhamdulillah that he knows everything, because sometimes I am not totally aware of my needs. So when I say, please help me, he will help me in every sense, because he knows what I don't know. So that's comforting, very comforting, because he knows everything. He knows all what we do. He knows all what is in my heart. So it's makes it easier to trust and surrender to such a Rabb.
It also means that it doesn't make sense to avoid listening to myself. I mean, it doesn't make sense to run away.
Yeah, there is nowhere to run away.
Right, but
running away is like, burying our head in the sand. That's true.
Yeah, that, I mean, independent of whatever the rest of the world says, I mean, I have to whatever is inside me, so, Quran kind of trains us, at least I would think so, trains us to listen to inside. And then if there's something that you don't like, it doesn't make sense to run away. It's just there. So it's just, if it's there, it's coming, it's better don't waste time with not listening. You can only trust.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's the only alternative. And next it says, think of the time when he shall gather you all together onto the day of the gathering. يوم يجمعكم ليوم الجمع ذلك يوم التغابن. That's where the title of this surah comes from. Think of the time when he shall gather you all together onto the day of the gathering. That day, that is the day of loss and gain. That is the day of disillusion, of Taghabun. For as for him who shall have believed in God and done what is just and right, God will efface his bad deeds and will admit him into gardens through which running waters flow therein to abide beyond the count of time. That will be the supreme, or the supreme success. يوم يجمعكم ليوم الجمع ذلك يوم التغابن ومن يؤمن بالله ويعمل صالحا يكفر عنه سيئاته ويدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها أبدا ذلك الفوز العظيم. And so, as I had mentioned at the very beginning when we started the surah, the Arabic word taghabun is the reciprocal for ghabana taghabun. Like it's a mutual doing it to each other, to forget, to neglect, to deceive, to dupe. You say dupe? Yes. Which is to take something without giving this its true value in exchange for something else. It's like when you're buying something, you're taking something very expensive, you give something very small price for it. That's cheating. That's taghabun, mutual deceiving. And so maghboon is the one who's cheated, deceived, or duped, as in a transaction. And from one aspect, I thought of it as taghabun occurs between an individual, any of us, and life, or whether you call it life or faith, or we don't give our life, which is a trust, a very, very special, very precious trust that was given to us as a trust. It's not ours. We don't give it its true value. We waste it. We think I can do whatever I want with it. I spend my time in self-pity, in complaining, in doing nothing, and I do nothing, and then I feel empty and worthless, and then I complain about it. Vicious circle. And if we, in this transaction, we were given something as a trust, and what we give in exchange is, I think it's mine, and because if it is mine, then I don't know its real value, because I'm not aware who gave it to me. I'm not aware of that Rabbul Alameen, the sustainer of all worlds, gave me this very, very precious life that is very, very meaningful. I'm unaware of that. I think it's my life. I do whatever. And what's my life like? Who am I? And so I waste it and do nothing with it. No gratitude, no praise, no connection to the divine names. Everything I do is, even if it's something that I get the best, even if I work hard and do something like some kind of achievements that in our worldly life we think are worth, if they are not related to my Rabb, they are not related to Akhirah, to the hereafter, to eternity, they are all passing, they are all transient. So in themselves, they're not worth much at the end of the day. That's the best I could do. And so on that day, can you imagine when we will realize that we were duped? We duped ourselves, actually. But we have to wait for that day. So we duped ourselves. We may think also we were duped because we listened to what we call social values, cultural values, things that we learned in our family, in our society, whatever the excuses we make. Because at the end of the day, no one forces us to do or follow anything anyways. We make either conscious choices or choices by default, but we are always making choices whether we are aware of it or not. But we have to wait for that day, because that would be awful. Can you imagine we go there and then suddenly you realize that, oh my God, like all my life was for nothing. Even if you think you worked hard, you were a serious person, you were not just wasting time. But if it's not related to eternity, okay, this next to eternity, 60 years of hard work, what is it? Mathematicians will tell you, it's like n, big N number means big number compared to infinity. Divide by infinity, the limit is always 0, right? Mathematician, Andrea? You take any number, divide it by infinity. When we're doing taking limits, it's always 0. And if we take infinity divided by any big number, it's always infinity. Subhanallah. And so it's so awful. It's like, it's scary, it's sad, it's everything. It's very distressing, very depressing. But alhamdulillah that we don't have to wait for that day. And that's exactly why this guidance in this surah is coming. So it's really, really, can you see how much we need it? This is such precious guidance. It's very, very, very precious. We are taught now how to take care of our life so that we don't live that big, I don't know even how to call it, like it's a big disaster, big breakdown, a point where you cannot regret it. Regret will not benefit us, as it says in other verses in the Quran. There will be nothing to do, it will be too late. Can you imagine? And it's for eternity. It's not like I missed a train or I missed a career or something like that. This is for eternity, because here in this life you can always do something else. It's not the end of the world, but there it will be the end of the world. And so alhamdulillah that we don't have to wait for that day and have such a big surprise, very very distressful surprise. We are told about it right now. And you can see the compassion, the rahmah, the guidance, the light in this message, in this area right now.
If I get this verse right, then it says that my bad deeds will be waived, right? I mean, so what counts, or what makes a big difference is how much I could establish in my life.
Yes.
The trust and the knowledge of that God exists and that God created me, that I'm created, and that I'm worth.
What we do is important, but the mistakes, it's okay if we make mistakes. What is important is our istiqama, our destination, our direction in life. Yeah, that's very important.
And we make a lot of mistakes. I mean, that's by definition, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And we make a lot of mistakes by definition. I mean, as human beings. But I mean, the difference. The difference is really that that awareness of being created, because that makes it possible then to deal with all these daily naggings. I mean, with the things that kind of that would undermine my that feeling, or that, you know, when you go teaching and then students look at you and you start thinking what they actually think about you, that all doesn't matter the moment you remember that you are created and you are allowed to make mistakes. But just the fact that the whole world is...
it's living with the certainty of the hereafter, with the certainty that we are right now connected to our Rabb, and dependent on Him, and we are being taken to Him. That's where the destination is, and living our life accordingly. Intend to live with that awareness, and that intention, that awareness, inshallah, will lead us to do what is just and right. And if we make mistakes, they will be effaced, as you said, inshallah. As long as our overall intention is to follow the direction, the istiqama showed to us, that to follow the guidance. Once that's our intention, that's why we make the conscious choice to live with that awareness. It will automatically change what is important and what is not, what I care about and what I don't, what will motivate my life, my actions, and what will not. Because when we live with that certainty of the hereafter, it means it's not like I may live 20 or 30 years. No, I am in a constant, yesterday is not here, this morning is not here. So I'm always ready to anytime I could be called, and it will be the day of the gathering. Because that awareness, that intention will change how we live our life, and therefore how we follow what is just and right, because things that may seem very important to us now won't feel very important, because we will have that perspective from someone who is grounded in that world of eternity, connected to his Rabb. Something happened, it's not the end of the world. How do you call them? Calamities, musibah, happens all the time. It's not the end of the world. It will come later.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I have one student in class. I like him. He is actually a nice person, and he is sensitive. And because he is sensitive, he is so negative. I mean, you know, these kind of people who are so oversensitive that they can't be positive at all.
Because they take everything personally.
Say again?
They tend to take everything personally as well.
Yeah, and so he has to. I mean, he has to complain all the time. He can't speak serious. He has to make a joke, and that joke is somehow insulting. But by this, you can see that sensitiveness. And earlier, I would have taken that personally because I would just have not been able to not take that personally. But this knowing that I'm created and he is created, and that he is just being on his way. So he's.
It's his way. Actually, he may be hurting. He's in pain. So instead of making it.
Yes, he's in pain. I mean, so he's in pain, and inshallah, to the best. Inshallah, he will find its way out, and it will, on the way, it will transform him to that what he's meant to be.
So you see, not only with that awareness, not only you don't take it seriously, you are now praying for him, and that prayer, if it carries on, it will find a way into words, into being. So when that person says something and you feel the hurt, you will be inspired maybe with saying the right words that will ease his pain, that will guide him to the light, that will open up a small opening, a small window onto the light that is enlightening your heart, that you can empathize with his pain, because you also came from that pain. We all came from that pain, that darkness, and so it seems like it's only an intention and an awareness, but that is the beginning of a new. It's like connecting. It's like you have like my laptop right now. It does so many things. It can connect with the whole world and everything. But if it's not connected to the electricity, it's not going to work. It's going to work a few hours on battery, and then it's done. And so so it is for us, that intention to live with awareness, certainty of the hereafter, is like connecting with electricity.
Yeah, and you can't accept that this kind of things are right. I mean, so you, as a believer, you can't accept that these kind of things hurt you or hurt your self-value. Because if you accept that they hurt your self-value, you are doing some kind of shirk. And if you really want to be one of those who contribute to spreading the light, then you have to do as you said. You have to not take that personally, but you have to know that immediately. That second it happened.
It just happens. It's a gift, and you start acting on it. Like you don't take it personally. It's your first action. No one sees it outside, but you are aware, because now maybe you laugh at the joke. Maybe you're trying to, you're feeling, how do I make it less painful for this person? How do I share the light that I am enjoying? And you feel that the other person needs it. And that's why it says, as for him who shall have believed in God and done what is just and right. So they are like the two sides of the same coin. When there is that belief in God, it's not a claim, it's true belief in God, then it will start showing itself in action, inner and outer action. And so belief and living accordingly, here they come together, because otherwise that won't be truly belief, but cheating oneself. It's like when I say I believe in God, I believe in the hereafter, but in my life there is no remembering of the hereafter. I live as if I was going to stay here forever. I never remember the hereafter, or I seldom remember it, only when someone dies or something, and I'm shocked then. That's cheating myself, actually. And so part of believing in God is to be certain of that awe-inspiring, that day of gathering, that day of judgment, that day of Taghabun. Inshallah, it won't be a day of Taghabun for us, or let's try to minimize it here, inshallah. When we reach our life destination. And so our life destination is not as we imagine very often. It's not tied to this passing life, but to the permanent realm of the hereafter. You can't anyway take a point of reference that's always changing. That's not a point of reference anyway. That's why we'll take a point of reference, we'll say, for instance, when I am this and this and that, I will enjoy my life. But by the time you come there, you are not who you were before. And you realize, like, what's going on? Or like, when I finish, when I have enough money, when I'm not working, and you will find out that you are so old now that you can't walk, you can't do whatever you want, you can, yes, because nothing waits for you. That you can't take something that's changing all the time as a point of reference. And so the destination is, we have to take that destination. What comes to my mind is like have you seen those old tramways when they had an electric connection, a wire? They would go around the city, but they are always connected to an electric wire. It's like that, like our life is like that. We're always connected. If you don't, then we lose the guidance, we lose the istiqamah, the direction, and we find ourselves in the middle of nowhere. So let's stop and look and observe around us, and inshallah witness how fast everything is moving around us, and remind ourselves again and again that this can't be our destination. It can't be our purpose in life. It is part of our life. We use it, but it's not the goal. Inshallah. And so the next ayah is that as far as for those who deny and give the lie to our signs, our ayat, they are destined for the fire therein to abide, and how vile a journey's end. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا أُولَٰئِكَ أَصْحَابُ النَّارِ خَالِدِينَ فِيهَا وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. And notice that in the previous ayah it was مَنْ يُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ يُؤْمِنْ. It's still open to the future. But here it's وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا, it's the past. Those who denied, they did deny. And in some ways it also means, even though those who in the past denied, they can still believe in the future. So it's nice. I mean, I'm not going to go, actually you can go one by one, but it needs some knowledge of Arabic grammar, and it's 9 and 10. 9 is the paradise, and 10 is the fire. And you see 9 is much longer, it gives details, but 10 doesn't give the details, subhanAllah. Like, there is motivation, but the other one, like, it's not where you want to go, that's it. Like, you don't want to go there, it's fire. It's a very, very bad end. And so what do the deniers deny? They deny the ayat, the signs. And so, of course, they are the ayat in the Quran. But if they are the ayat in the Quran, therefore they include the ayat in creation, as I always emphasize, because it's very, very important. Otherwise, there will be no link to link the Quran to our life. Whereas when you look and read the Quran, it's always related to the creation, to our lives, to ourselves. And so the ayat of the Quran talk about everything in creation being ayat, including in this surah, the first ayah, يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. All that is in the heavens and all that is on earth makes the speech to him, extols his limitless glory, as it is usually translated. So those who deny the ayat in the Quran and therefore in creation, they have no light. They live in darkness. And when we do that, when we don't live with the awareness that everything is an ayah, meaning that everything makes the speech, meaning that everything is coming from God and bearing a message from Him, about the hereafter. It is carrying and reflecting, mirroring the beautiful divine names. Then we live in darkness. We can read the Quran as much as we want. We are not actually following the guidance of the Quran. We're not even reading it. We could be reading it. We may know all the grammar and everything, but if we are not practicing what it's telling us, then it's like I take water, I put it in the lab, I know all the chemical properties of water and everything, but I never drink it. If I don't drink it, I don't benefit from it. And so when in that state, we live in darkness, and so we have no idea of the purpose and meaning of life. Oh, we may say it's ibadah, we may say to know God, but they're just words. We don't really feel them in our hearts, and we don't feel the need for them. Like we don't feel that how much precious the being abd is, how meaningful it is, because it's just a word that I'm repeating. I'm not aware that it fulfills a need in me, a very important need, a need for the hereafter, a need to be the host, the guest of a most generous host, the creator of all worlds. Can you imagine? Human being is that honored guest, is very, very special creation. So we will have truly no idea of the purpose and meaning of life. And add to this the fact that everything, all achievements, all success, all valuables, all friends, and all beloveds are passing. And